Why does West Asia matter to India? Remember, everyone knows a huge part of our oil needs are met by imports from the Gulf. The figure, in fact, even now is as high as 60%. Here is another reason. The highest remittances globally come to India thanks to its diaspora. An RBI survey in 2018 said the most amount of money through remittances came from the UAE at 26.9%, US came second at 22.9%, Saudi Arabia next at 11.6%, then Qatar 6.5%, Kuwait 5.5%, Oman 3%, then finally the United Kingdom. Of the top 7 countries from where remittances came, 5 were from Gulf nations. So that gives you a sense of the economic costs involved in keeping this relationship going. What are the diplomatic costs? Joining me now, KC Singh, former Secretary MEA, he served in that region. Vivek Kaju, former Secretary MEA, he served in Afghanistan, which has also come out strongly against India today. Gentlemen, let's get each of you, KC Singh, your first remarks. Do you believe that the diplomats are being made to do the damage control for the manner in which our politicians tend to shoot off the hip and make statements that are interpreted as hate speech and blasphemy and worse?
Rajdeep, the problem is deeper than that. I've been writing for some years now, saying you cannot put your domestic politics in one silo and your foreign policy in another. It will carry you only so far, and a stage will come when the conflict will occur. You can't have a majoritarian Muslim baiting agenda at home and go hugging the rulers of these countries and think they'll look the other way. They will mostly they'll look after their interests. Emiratis are interested in weaning you away from Iran. Saudis are interested in doing the same. But when it comes to an issue, I think this is the Salman Rushdie moment. This is not a normal baiting of Muslims in India. It's gone to the religion itself. It's gone to the Prophet. So like in case of Salman Rushdie, once it reaches that level, now it's a religious issue. It is not a diplomatic or political issue. And therefore what happens is it hits the masses. Don't forget, in 1980, over Salman Rushdie's book, a mob in Pakistan overran the American embassy. And even the military stood by and the police stood by, couldn't save them. So therefore, when it reaches the masses, even the rulers in highly autocratic countries will be forced to act. And one last point, where did it begin? It began with Qatar. You see the differences which are there in GCC. You have UAE and Saudis aligned on one side. Qataris have been leaning towards the Iranians, they share a gas field. And Kuwaitis have largely been with them. Bahrain is with the Saudis and the Omanis are largely neutral. Now once Qataris opened the flank, there's no way Saudis and the Emiratis keep quiet. The reaction came very late and is relatively mild compared to what the Qataris did. But then it goes on to Iran, it goes on to Taliban, it will go on to Indonesia. You see, now the entire Islamic Ummah and the Islamic countries, the regimes feel that they have to take a stand. And therefore this was bound to happen. When you allow, let me ask a simple question on the fringe. When the fringe comes to your channel, do they come as the fringe? They come to speak on behalf of BJP, not BJP, the government. They are always nightly fighting and defending the government. So the fringe has been spokesman for the government. You don't get government spokesmen on your channels.
No,
they are the fringe.
I take your point, Mr. KC Singh.
I just want of top leaders follow them.
Sure, I just want to make the point. We've asked the so-called fringe to come on the show. The BJP spokespersons are not even coming because perhaps they're too embarrassed to defend themselves on this issue. I've also tried to have a haircut which was a bit of a fringe haircut in my own way. But Vivek Kaju, more seriously, do you believe that the Arab countries their governments are under pressure because, as Bobby Naqvi was pointing out of Gulf News, there was pressure from below. There were lots of people on social media angry over these remarks on the Prophet. Did we underestimate the scale of Arab anger simply because we seem to have a good relationship with their leaderships, forgot that the masses out there will get angry when you make a statement on the Prophet?
Rajdeep, the fact is that whatever may be the differences in the Islamic world, and they are deep and abiding, there is one issue on which all Muslims have a common feeling and they all unite, and that is on reverence for the Prophet Muhammad. So if there is a perception that the Prophet has been insulted, then it evoked almost atavistic feeling among all Muslims. Now, that is something that I do believe that should have been understood, because if I know correctly, Nupur Sharma's remarks came on the 26th of May. On the 30th of May, the Vice President went out on his travels and he was to reach Qatar on June 4th. Now, the question that I've been asking myself is that once this matter reached the social media, it was inevitable that it would inflame passions in the Muslim world and, of course, in the Gulf countries. And since the Vice President was traveling there, what was the Minister of External Affairs doing? Because I do not, KC can correct me if I'm wrong, but I, in my diplomatic experience, do not remember a situation when the Vice President is on a visit, on an official visit, or whatever nature this visit became, in Qatar, that the Foreign Office of that country calls in the Indian ambassador and issues a statement asking for a public apology.